Good morning, good morning, good morning, and good morning, good morning, good morning. All right, welcome, welcome, welcome. I don't know why it feels like I haven't been here in so long, but I have been. I've been doing this every 2 weeks. But 2 weeks feels like a long time. It just feels like a long time. So I'm looking forward to shortening those 2 weeks. And we'll kind of get into that with kind of like the whole update, but I would like to be live again every week. That would be nice. So, good morning, everyone. And I'd also like today to be somewhat quick. And I know I say that every single session. Hey, Andy. Hey, Brian. So we'll see what happens, right? All right. So the email I sent out this morning, which I find that it's become natural to send one out every Monday morning. So without any type of planning, it just happens that way, which I think is good. I think I know. So my week really is Sunday. I do most of my stuff. So I do everything all week, and then Saturday I have my kids from 10 to 5, which becomes a large part of the day because I'll wake up super early. Like this Saturday, I was up at 1:30 to get some work done because I'm not ever going to put Rhino second, right? Like I have 3 kids, Rhino, Christian, and Morris. So I get that work done, but then I spend like 2, 3 hours preparing for my kids, in which case then by the time 5 o'clock rolls around, I'm like, oh my God, I just want some food and like forget the world. Where I kind of like binge eat, watch some TV. And then I wake up early Sunday and then spend all Sunday doing things. What that then means is that come Monday, it's like, okay, I caught up on everything. I know where we want to go. All right, great. This is a great opportunity to share some. It's just the way Monday has worked. So the email this morning, point number 1. So our repayment was going to be Wednesday, May 1st. I'm moving that to Wednesday, May 15th. The 2-week reschedule. It's just taxes. So it's funny because I know the money that's coming in, right? And I very intimately know it because I know everyone. And I swear to you that you just can't make this stuff up. Every single, no matter what it is, there's something. There's always something. There's never going to be a day where I'm like, today went as planned. So of course, these individual investors, being as large as they are, their taxes are a big ordeal. And when you're that size of an investor, you say to Anthony, hey, Ant, I said I was going to do it. Do you want me to tell my accountant I can't do my taxes, or are you going to sit there and wait? And I don't really appreciate being spoken to like that, but I have to speak to everyone in the language they're accustomed to. So sometimes you got to put your pride aside and allow people to speak to you a certain way. And it's not personal. It's, hey, listen, this is what I'm doing. You'll get your money. In which case I have to allow that to roll downhill. That doesn't mean we have zero. So if somebody's like, Ant, I have my mortgage payment May 1st, let me know. Email me, right? But everyone will be paid by May 15th. Exactly. To what Brian said, it's not personal, it's business. I find that in my life especially, and maybe because I drew the short straw that allows me to have a very wide variety of examples of things that can be considered it's not personal, it's business. If I were to get upset and take things personally, it would just be really bad. So it becomes a life lesson that I'm going to share. There is a point where Rhino becomes Rhino, and we get to share and talk to people about, hey, how'd you get there? What did you do to get there? Blah, blah, blah. And one of the lessons is don't ever take anything personally. Just don't. The second you take something personally, you lose. And the corollary is make sure you're always acting ethically, right? Like, because if you know to yourself, you don't lie, cheat, or steal, and you always put everyone else in front of you, then the rest is just the rest. It's the world. And for you to ever believe that you have to shield a grown adult from the things that the world does, well, now you're not doing them a service. You're doing a disservice by treating an adult like a child for your own ego because you take things personally. I don't take things personally. And in fact, I see all of, I can't see everyone that's on because I have to scroll, but I can see enough people to know that I've spoken to it. there's enough people that I'm looking at right now are like, yeah, Aunt, I remember you said something to me one time and it caught me off guard. But then I learned to, it's just the way you speak. In fact, the last time I was in court, the judge, she said a couple of things, and I was happy with the things she said. And then she ends it by saying, by the way, Mr. Cadleshon, I do see how people don't like you. I was like, well, that's rude. She goes, no, I go, Your Honor, honestly, it's quite a compliment. And she's like, how is that a compliment? I go, because if you understood what I've endured over the last 300 days, for you to even make a comment that allows me to almost be anthropomorphized, right? Like you are actually speaking to me like an adult, like a human, rather than like this wreck that's gone through 300 days of like the worst thing that he's ever gone through. It's quite the compliment that I've held myself together so well that you felt comfortable speaking to me like a normal person, regardless of how much I went through. And she goes, wow, really, really well said. And I was like, gotcha, that's Rhino, right? And I didn't say that part. But it is what it is. So let's get to the fun stuff now that we got the annoying stuff out of the way. And by the way, that annoying stuff, I'm going to email each individual person, right? Because I know who I owe money to. And it's not like, oh, I said it on the live and now kick rocks. No, you matter no matter what, right? So I have a list of people I need to email. Anyway, that being said, we actually are in the best position ever. And you know what? While I was taking a shower, I'm always thinking about like these calls. And it's funny because I think I fall into the trap of thinking I could script it in my head, but I can't. But I still think of like, oh, these are the things I'd like to say. And when I came up with that sentence, I'm like, for those that have been on my calls for like 5 years, I kind of feel like they probably say, well, Aunt, every time you have a call, you say it's the best thing ever. And to that person, you have to say, well, am I lying? Am I deluded? Or is there really like a lineage where it's like, if you want to obtain the biggest super duper duper thing, well, then every step is the best thing ever, but you can't calculate how many steps there are. For instance, if we want to achieve like the super duper duper, in lieu of knowing how many steps it is, it's always going to be the best step ever because you've subsequently passed the steps you have, but you're constantly going to say the same sentence for as many steps as it takes. So I found a lot of solace in that explanation because I know that I don't come out here and say, oh, well, everything's great. Because I actually really feel that. But sometimes I think to myself, like, am I deluding myself? Because how is it possible for every time to be the best thing ever in the same sentence of like, I'll get the money, I promise, right? So it's one of those things. But when you take a look at life, I think the challenge that most people fall into is that they look at it linearly, or in a vacuum. When it's not, it's cyclical. Like for instance, not to bore you with some physics, but hey, it's Monday morning, let's do it. So there was a famous experiment called Schrodinger's cats. And the physicist's name was, you guessed it. And it's an experiment in quantum mechanics. And in quantum mechanics, the belief is, or at least the proof is, everything operates in two states simultaneously. And that's actually what quantum computing is based on, right? So quantum computing is so many years, like maybe 2040 we'll have it, and then the whole world just ends because it figures everything out. So let me go back. A computer, the way it works is it makes a decision between 1 and 0, right? Okay, this is 0. If this is 0, do this. If this is 1, do this. And then multiply that by like super duper duper, and you get your calculations. What quantum computing does is it decides for itself is it 1 or 0, and then simultaneously goes down the path of both of those. And when it achieves a solution that it wanted to achieve, it then subsequently goes back and denotes the correct answer. So if you think about that whole like super duper duper, like you have like say 100, let's say 100 calculations, which is a nice round number, but it's like a bazillion, right? Like 100 calculations. Well, each of those 100 calculations, if you start with the first one, you could go 1 or 2, 1 or 0, right? Well, now you have two results. Now each of those results could go 1 or 0. So now you have 4 results and blah, 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 blah. By the time you get to 100, you have, I don't know, what, like a bazillion results. So what quantum computing does is it actually calculates all of that and then scales back to the results that you wanted or the correct results. And I'm overly simplifying it, right? But the point of the story being, and it's almost like the grandpa theory where, and I'm not going to get into that theory, but the point being that you can in life do something that does change what happened. And the point of the story being, it'd be really weird if I like completely lost track. But this was like a really, okay, so let's go back to Schrodinger's cats. So the point of the experiment was there's a box and there's a cat in it. Is the cat alive or dead? Well, you don't know. You have to open up the box. But you didn't open up the box. Is the cat alive or dead? Well, you don't know. You have to open the box. So is it true that the cat is simultaneously alive and dead at the same time? I guess so. I have no clue if the cat's alive or dead. That's the proof of the experiment. When it comes back to, I think I was comparing it to what we're doing here. I don't know. Now I gotta like really piece it together. But when it comes back to what we're doing here, it's like Schrodinger's cats. What is it that we're doing today that is equaling what is it that we're doing tomorrow? Because you have to kind of scale it back. So when I say that we're in the best position we've ever been, it's with the knowledge that I know if the cat's alive or dead, because I know what we're going to do next. Now, and I'm pretty sure I completely lost base, but you know, that's what Schrodinger's cats will do to you, right? So in the 7 years that we've been doing this, a lot of, I would say a lot of what makes Rhino is the things that you can't actually calculate, at least not on paper. And what I mean by that is, what is the interaction that we have with everyone individually? Sorry, everyone individually. And that's not like opining on like customer service or, you know, well, as long as you're really nice to people it's none of that. When you empower every individual to go ahead and actually speak their mind without the fear that anything that they would say would be disruptive to the relationship they're forming, but in fact the opposite, where it's empowering to the relation that they're forming, that's even if they say something so constructively critical that it actually adds to the relationship bonding. When you allow every individual, when you empower every individual to act with that type of autonomy, you create an environment where you actually siphon the collective zeitgeist of the entire world. And I know that sounds far out, right? Rhino has 588 individual investors from 122 different countries. There is no demographic. Like, I can think of a Malaysian woman as I can think of like a Canadian man, or like it's just so, and every single person shares exactly what they believe. In fact, they can, I can tell you that I've been told everything from good to bad, and I've accepted it all the same way. Okay. All of that feedback over the 7 years we've done this with a steward that actually accepts this feedback as fuel. Like, this is the gold to me. This is the part that no one seems to understand. And I'm not speaking to you, but I'm speaking about the world. It's very easy to say, well, Ant, you don't actually sell anything. You don't actually receive anything. You don't make any money. Yeah, we don't make any money. But does that mean we don't sell anything? Because I would submit to you that although we don't mark it up like for sale, that the interaction that the Rhino community has directly with me, well, I've never seen a founder, Anthony, that takes all of his own phone calls and answers all. It's not by accident. all of everyone's zeitgeist comes directly to me. I'm the only one that gets it. And in doing so, I'm constantly able to weave the tapestry or weave the quilt that becomes what we're doing going forward. So when I say to you, Rhino's in the best position it's ever been in, yes, that's true. And Anthony, we already agreed with that. I hope this isn't for that point. It's not. But in actually detailing what that means for today, it's having the understanding of we actually are where we need to be for what we're about to do. And the biggest milestone is that transition from going from building to marketing. Now, I've never been good at marketing. I'm like really very bad at it. In fact, I'm not sure that there's anyone worse at marketing than me. It's just, and of course I'm speaking to a very biased audience because the audience is like the people that like me. But I can promise you, I've tried speaking to a lot of people and only a small percentage have made it to the audience. So although the audience number looks completely impressive, if you were to do a percentage with a correct numerator and denominator, it would have a couple of decimal points in the wrong direction, right? The point being, I keep going off track. So the point being, where was I? Anyway, so that I understand where we are. Okay. Oh, the marketing thing. Okay, great. So even to the point of like, say 2 months ago, I think I originally released the lander and it needed some work. And a lot of people had a lot of nice things to say and some people had some constructive things to say. And that was fine. Then we got into the relationship with one of our larger investors that does email marketing campaigns. Now, the part of the email marketing campaign that this person didn't really share, and again, when life gives me lemons, I make lemonade, right? So as long as you understand that, then everything else is just life. The part that this person didn't share with me was that they do cold email marketing campaigns. Okay. So they wanted to do a cold email marketing campaign introducing what we're doing and telling people they need to raise money. It didn't work at all. But in doing so, this individual took a real interest to our website, the lander, and sent us a page of a lander that he finds converts the best for cold traffic. Now again, cold traffic isn't a fun thing. We've got 0 results. This is how many booked calls we have, 0. But for an individual that only does cold traffic, what is the data that that individual has? Literally the most diverse data possible because they don't have a warm audience. They need to actually speak to the mass populace. So the lander that they sent us, which is congruent with the lander we now have, was in a style that they said, this is what converts the best. Okay, great. We still didn't convert. Then they worked with us because they had a little pie on their face. Hey, we need to change this. You need to add a little bit of this, blah, 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 blah. In doing so, it made me really take a look at it from a standpoint where I opened up to my own friends, which I always do. Like I have a Facebook and Instagram and I say, hey, listen, I need help. Does this look like it makes sense or is this like speaking Chinese? But this time I asked, I was like, I really need some help. Can someone please help me? Does this make sense? And I actually got a couple of responses, and one was from a girl that I used to work with a long time ago. And you find out in life who your fans are, and she's always been a big fan, and I've known her since I was like 18, right? So she goes, I always knew back then you were gonna do something great. Anthony, you need more personality. Don't get away from who you are. You need to tell a narrative. I go on this, I don't even understand this. Like, what am I getting at? Blah, 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 blah. So I took that perspective and started editing the lander. And I went from the original lander to a lander that compared compared the decision of AI as getting married, right? Like, are you prepared to marry AI? Like, these are the things you need to consider. These should be your prenuptial agreements. This is how you should have it in writing, blah, blah, blah. And then I started talking to Ricky Matejka. And when you speak to Rick, you realize quite quickly that you really need to reduce your messaging down to a 5th grader. And I don't say that disrespectfully to Rick. Like, He's so good at what he does because he reduces everything down to a fifth grader. Meaning that's actually by nature of him being so good at what he does, whether it's nature or nurture, that's actually how he understands. So there is a good argument to be made. Rick's so good at marketing because he only understands things at a fifth grader. But you couldn't say that disrespectfully because he also does all of his own, like he's a coder by nature. He was coding before you had the drag and drop cartridge, right? So he has this like wonderful symphony of, I don't understand anything past the fifth grade level, but if you put me in graduate like computer science, I understand that. Like Rick gets an A in first grade, second grade, third grade, and then doctorate level computer science, but all through middle school and high school, he's like a complete dude to do. And I don't know how else to say it, but that's really him. So when I had to reduce it down, because we're talking about the offer, equity and private placement memorandum, and I immediately said to myself, I'm like, there's no way Rick is going to understand this. In what world? And then I told him it has to be accredited investors. He goes, oh, that's, I don't do marketing where I say accredited investors. We have to find a way around that. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm not going to jail. Like I'm not going to commit a felony in securities law. I'm just not going to do it. And I'm like, you know what? This is too complicated. If I can't even explain this to Rick, how, so by all accounts, this is a really super duper duper marketer that's coming to me saying, hey, I'm going to promote your product, but like you have to explain it to me so I can understand it. And what do I do? What do I say? Well, because you don't understand what I'm doing, go kick rocks. You don't throw that opportunity away. You have to realize to yourself that this is the form of constructive criticism. This is the moment where you have to say, well, do you know what? Maybe I'm being a little bit too maybe I'm not top of the funnel. Maybe the top of the funnel is something that everyone could understand. And that's when I thought to myself, loan, it's easy. We're looking to borrow $1 million. The reason for it is we did all of this, we want all of that, and we now need to bridge it. And the reason we want all of that is because of everything we did. Does it make sense? Because if it makes sense, then you'll understand that we'll be able to get at least some percentage of success that we're identifying with the backdrop of the security of the actual asset that's worth far more than we're looking for. Therefore, you're in position to be secure. So, Ant, what are you really asking me for? All right, well, we need $1 million. We have our company, we have our patent, we have our business. Now we need to go make a partnership. To do the partnership, we need to go ahead and fund the marketing efforts to do the partnership. We need to travel places, we need to meet people, we need to do presentations. Well, Ant, how do I know that anyone's even going to even care about this? Well, did you understand the product? This is what the product does. Oh, that does sound kind of good. But how do I know that someone else can't do this? Well, do you understand the patent? We have it. Oh, you have a patent. That must be worth some money. Yeah. In fact, the most conservative estimation is this. Oh, so I'm lending you like not even 2% of what the actual asset's worth by itself in the middle of a vacuum, but you're going to people that are actually going to be able to use the patent to build this business or collaborate in somehow, which means it's like a perfect fit. You're like a biotech company and they're like a pharmaceutical. They have no pipeline and no money. You have pipeline and no money. Yes. Oh, duh, that makes sense. So what do you need? Well, I just need to fund this. I'm raising only $1 million. I'll give you 100% on it because we're going to get this much money. Do you think I care to give 100% on? All right, great. So you're raising $1 million. You're going to pay back 2, and this is going to fund you getting a partnership. Yes. Well, what if you don't get a partnership? Well, then we'll sell the patent. Well, is it worth anything? Well, let's go back to what it's worth. Okay. And you commit to getting this partnership by the end of the year? Yeah, we've committed to taking the best deal, whatever it is, because I'm going to stay with the company. So I don't really care what the valuation is. I just want to make sure that everyone's paid. Okay. Am I going to hear anything from you during this whole time? Yes, that's where the fun is, from June to December, which is why I was saying in the beginning of this call, I want to do more live events. I would like to have a live every Monday. Hey, I would like to have a live like on a Tuesday. Look, we're outside of Tesla. I'm knocking on the door, right? Like, we're going to send out the packages. We're going to do the phone calls. We're going to knock on the doors. We're going to make the partnerships. We are going to be active in all that stuff, because here's the beautiful part of it. Once we remove everything off my plate, which is everything that we completed, the only thing left is finalizing the lander, which I led with the conversation, then the only job this month is to raise that bridge funding. Okay. After that raise of bridge funding, the only job I have from June to December is to go ahead and secure the partnership. Does anyone believe that if you give me 6 months to only do one thing by walking into places telling them, hey, we have what you need, that won't be done? Well, no, that's like completely. In fact, I would be so bold to say that I could even go walk into a place and sell myself. All right, listen, just hire me then, give me a bonus of 2 million, let me pay this off, and I'll bring my stuff, allow me to keep my equity, and let's go, right? Like, there's so many different ways that this works out, which allows us to finally say we're exactly where we want to be. Because as much as, and this always bothers people when I say it, including my wife, which still is my wife until she's my ex-wife, but this would be the comment that would bother her the most. It's just money. My investors, everyone hates when I say that. And that's okay, because I'm going to say it. It's just money. People that have money are looking for things to do with the money. Everybody that has money wants to protect their money, get a return on their money, and also if they could somehow find a way to be a part of creating something that adds to their legacy, those are the triad of what money actually does. Money is not something you can eat. It doesn't help you sleep. It's just, well, it helps you sleep with clarity, but it's to be used. But because everybody wants it, you have to guard against it. Yeah, I have money. I worked hard for it. Doesn't mean you have it. I'm not just giving it to you because I have a surplus of it. But if you can go ahead and solve that gap by saying, no, I understand you have money. I have none. And it's because I have a pipeline. I've been building this. You have money because you don't do anything, or you're retired, or whatever the heck you do, but you have the money. Therefore, this is the definition of partnership. I have the thing that the money activates. So if you believe this idea makes sense, well, then your money allows you to be an equal partner, blah, 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 blah. Oh, okay. That's essentially what people do when they go to banks. Oh, Aunt, I put my money in a bank account. Yeah, you're trusting the bank. The bank said to you, hey, listen, all that money you have, I'm a trustworthy individual that can offer you a return on that money, and we're going to lend it out and create some change in the local economy. Oh, that sounds great. Okay. Or you buy a stock. All right, I have money, but I invested in Microsoft. Okay, you trust the institution that they're going to be able to pay you back the money plus some type of return, and you're going to contribute to the fabric of what Microsoft creates. So it's just levels to it, right? Well, Ant, you're not Microsoft. Yeah, I know that, but Microsoft wasn't Microsoft until it became Microsoft. So anyway, so the long and short of it is, what is on my plate as of right now is I need to finish that lander. Once the lander's done, and I haven't heard from Rick yesterday or today. I did expect to hear from him yesterday, but for those that know Rick, only after 3 days should you really start blowing up his phone or checking the obituaries. So if I don't hear from him by tomorrow, I'll reach back out to him. But I have spoken to his team, and I know they're all working on it, so that's fine with me. But what it allows me to do is actually finish the lander. So once I finish the lander, then I'll start bothering him. Hey, listen, this is what needs to go out, blah, 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 blah. Simultaneous or in parallel to that, I can then start offering out on our end, and not talking about our email list because that's not where I'm going. Like, of course, we're going to offer it to everyone, but we want to go ahead and engage all of our social medias, Twitter being the one that we use the most. And it doesn't mean that we have like a loyal following. It means that I know how to engage with others on it, right? Like if you give me, hey, Ant, for 5 hours, just go sit on Twitter and stir up conversation with people. I can figure Ted and I will be just fine, right? So that's that. Also doing different ads. Okay. I also need to, what I really want to do, which I haven't done yet, I tried doing it, but it was more difficult than I thought. I want to buy a lead list of high net worth individuals that invest in startups and just call them. Hey, Mr. Jones, I see that you invest in startups. My name's Anthony. I bought your name for like 10 cents. If you tell me to go kick rocks, I'm just going to rip the card up and, maybe I overpaid for you. But if you'd like to hear a good idea, do you have time to talk, right? And I won't say it like that, but I can promise you it'll probably sound something like that. Because when you talk to someone with money, you almost want to this is what makes me different. The balls on this kid to say this to me. He must have something or he's cuckoo, in which case the next 10 seconds is the person finding out if you're cuckoo or if you actually have something, right? So I can navigate that conversation. And I also want to open up an affiliate offer. And I hate saying the word affiliate, but the exact deal I'm making with Rick is a perpetual 15% on whatever he brings in. Because if you remember, the money that's coming in, 50% is going to go to continuing operations, but the other 50% is going to go to creating the Rhino marketplace that allows investors to cash out on any Rhino that they have and they want to, I've owned Rhino for a while, I want to cash out on some of that Rhino bucks or whatever. So I want to facilitate that, which means 50% of the income I'm designating to investors. Well, offering 15% of the total and now only 50% for continuing operations, 15% for compensating affiliate, and now only 35% for that marketplace, all serves the same purpose because the money coming in is going to be fueled by that 15%. So that's what makes it even more important that we complete the lander responsibly and well, because A, B, C, D, all of the people that are on this call, like, well, Ann, if you do it really that well, I do have an email list, I'll blast it out. And if I'm going to get paid because you get on the phone with someone and convince them to invest 10,000 or 20,000 or 30,000, and I'm going to get a 15% wire same day or Friday, we'll figure that part out. Well then, duh, like why wouldn't I? It's just free money. Let me book up your calendar, right? So I do want to make sure that all levers are being pulled, because the job for May is everyone book Anthony's calendar. My calendar I have open from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. Anyone that knows me, and I took out the hours for my kids, right? Because I know what time I have them. But anyone that knows me knows I have no problem sitting on the phone from 7 to 10. I'll do it because that's what I need to do for work. There's nothing I need to do that I won't do. I'm not better than the janitor. I will get on my hands and knees and scrub the floor with a toothbrush. That's who I am, right? So May is raising the money. And of course, raising money sounds like, oh, and no, we're done. Everything's done. Now I just need to get on the phone. But before we get on the phone, I want to finish the lander. So the lander, I guess going back to it, right? I got a little excited. So what you've seen in the lander, which by the way, I have to say like 1,000 times over, is super duper duper draft. Now I do think we'll have it done by tomorrow latest. But the way the lander is created, like they're all created, there's obviously there's a lineage, right? This leads to this, leads to this, leads to this. But more importantly, when I'm thinking about, well, who's my audience going to be? Well, what does this, like, what is it that we're really saying? Like, what is it that we're trying to create? What is it that we're saying that AI, like, why does anyone need to pay attention to us? What is this existential threat in front of us? What is it that you're trying to say? And it kind of comes up to like a new deal. And all of the things TED does, whether it be universal basic income or guaranteed employment or disrupting the financial system and creating a banking relationship, and all of these things actually were done as the New Deal. Social Security, and who remembers all the different programs that we had, like Social Security Perfected, like all of these ideas are all relevant. It wasn't that they were bad ideas, they just didn't, like, they weren't cohesive. Now, fast forward to where we are now, TED essentially is an AI New Deal. So that's something that makes sense to people. I don't think that everyone we're going to speak to is going to say, yeah, well, in 1930, no, they don't need to. They could look it up. New Deal. Oh, what was the New Deal, FDR? Oh, okay, I understand what happened. It was after the Great Depression. Okay, how is this? And then they could draw the parallels. That offers a high level, all right, he's not talking about marriage and AI. He's talking about like fundamentally an agreement that needs to be made with this technology. And I think everyone would agree with that, right? Okay. So now what are the parallels? How does it mix and match? And I think we do really well on that. As it pertains to the lander though, as you'll see, it's very wordy. Well, when creating something, I don't write the one sentence that's going to be the sentence. I try to write as much as possible, and like an accordion, then you reduce it down. So a lot of what you saw in the lander needs to be further reduced down. Also, you'll see that timeline that has like those stock images. We're going to change the pictures, obviously. And then it just needs to flow. We need to tell the story. The stuff I want to add to it. It just needs to, the person needs to come to it and say, okay, I understand what you're trying to say. I do see the parallels. This is an idea that would solve it. Okay, I see that you fully thought it through and you have it in place. Okay. So now you just need to go find somebody that is large enough that they can pursue this with you. You have a real asset, so I mean, obviously this could work. And I'm just lending money to this to be the bridge from A to B, and all the while you're going to be live every week and sharing updates and really creating an environment where we're all like, oh my God, Rhino was at Tesla the other day. What happened? Well, that sounds fun, right? Like, okay, I see what's going on. I'd like to be a part of that. So that's essentially what needs to happen. And I'm saying it out loud because I'm also thinking out loud. And I just saw that I kind of stumbled a little bit telling the story. And if I can't even tell the story without stumbling, how do we expect someone to look at the lander and not stumble, right? So even this process is like, I'm still thinking. But it's where we are. Like, we're right there. So again, the goal is that the money is no longer a concern by the end of this month. We're funded for the rest of the year to do all the traveling and all the fun stuff. And we started national debates because what I think I said in the email was, we've always done everything very hush-hush. You know, it's not that we sat there and said, all right, everyone be quiet, but who remembers us ever doing a paid ad? Like, we don't. We've always stuck to our group because we've always believed that there was going to be a certain level of duration that equaled the maturity of an idea that was able to withstand scrutiny. You only get one shot at a first impression, and Rhino never wanted to have such a sensational, Superman in a phone booth idea. And then the first time we spend the time to get that attention, someone's like, well, you didn't think this through. How are you going to do about this? And we're like, can you give us a week to come back? And they're like, no, like, get out of here. Like, you already blew your shot. So all in all, everything is just done. And we're there. So I will keep everyone updated. I will send out some emails by the end of today. I do need to finish the lander. We own AI New Deal. That's the page that the lander will be on, which is pretty cool. AI New Deal. I guess no one thought of it yet, so we're constantly kind of ahead of it. But I just think that makes sense. Now, the one of the last concerns I have is the video we have, I think is fantastic. I'm not sure it's fantastic as in a video at the top of the page. Some of the criticism I got was it doesn't really, it's like Rick would tell me it's a really great VSL. He watched the whole thing and he loved it. It kept him, really going. But Rick is seeing it from a marketer's point of view. There might be people that are like, and just by a general rule, no one's ever going to watch a 10-minute video when they come to your page and then just like make a decision. Which is why I was playing around with the video I put in the email, just kind of like to capture some passion. So I don't know. There's things that need to be done still. But we're working on it. And by the end of tomorrow, the goal is that it's completed. And then it's just about booking calls. So there is a lot of work to do. So I'm going to go. Love y'all. And I think that's it. I had so much more I wanted to say, but I'm looking at the time and I know that this would go on for another hour if I did. So I'm not going to do it. Maybe I'll save it for next time, right? All right. Love y'all. Bye.